Ladies and gentlemen, today is huge. Today is the biggest news that we have received so far regarding the Caldera, Warzone Pacific, and everything regarding the launch of Warzone Pacific. We've got dates, we've got times, we've got a map, we've got map locations, we've got all of the details. This video is going to be everything you need to know about Warzone Pacific. And there's a lot here. We have all of the different map locations with images of each one of them. On top of that, we have gameplay information about what you can use, what weapons you can use, and how that is going to work within different modes, because as of the launch of Warzone Pacific, there are essentially two different battle royale modes that you need to know about. But without further ado, let's dive into it and look at everything you need to know about Warzone Pacific. So let's start off by looking at the map. So the map here is pretty straightforward. It's divided into different sections. As you can see, they are all listed there. No point for me to read through them. If you want to read them, just pause the video. The point that I want to point out is, first of all, this is called Operation Vulcan, which is taking place on December 8th, 1944, somewhere in the Pacific. So we're in an island in the Pacific known as the Caldera, and it's Operation Vulcan. Now, based off of all of these different locations, we actually have images of each one of them, and I'm going to go through them individually. So these go in the same order that you saw on the map. So A was Arsenal, aka Naval Arsenal. This is a naval base right on the coast. And as far as this goes, it's kind of most similar to Port, which we saw in the Verdansk map. But as far as this one goes, you can still see that they have the levees there blocking off the water, and this is kind of one of the areas on the coast. The next one we have is called Industrial Docks. As far as this one goes, it's a little bit more industrial, as you can see with the area. What you may notice from this image here is that is shipment right there. So similar to what we had in Verdansk, how there's kind of several different maps from previous Call of Duty games hidden in one larger map. It's exactly what we have here, with shipment being hidden in the industrial docks. The next one that we have here is Runway. This one obviously is a runway. It's very much so more scarce than the other two areas that we looked at. But as far as this goes, obviously there's going to be airplanes here, and we're going to talk a little bit more about those later on in the video when we discuss what Vanguard Royale is. And like I said, we'll dive into that in a minute. This is followed up by the Ruins. This one is along a lakeside, which makes me question more about whether or not you're going to be able to swim within this map. But as far as this goes, there's a hot springs here. It's located very closely to the mines, which is the next area known as the Phosphate Mines. So this is the mines mixed with the quarry area. This is probably going to most remind you of quarry from the Verdansk map. And as far as this goes, it's a very large area that takes up an expansive area. There's also some redacted information in the description here. So keep in mind, once the map launches, there's definitely going to be some secrets there to find on this map. So then the next area, very different, is called Peak. This is the highest area, and it's located on top of a dormant volcano. As far as this one goes, it's very high up in the air, and you're going to have height advantage if you decide to land here. Then we have Beachhead. This one's a little bit different than some of the other areas. This one, you have some concrete building located on the beachfront. There's also some trenches that you can go into as well. And obviously, this one's right on the beach. Then located in the foothills of the west, we have River Village. This is kind of some smaller buildings kind of dusted in there, alongside some rice paddies and farmer fields, things along those lines, most similar to farmland inside of Verdansk. Then we have Clearwater Lagoon, and as far as this goes, there is a lighthouse. Pretty much all you need to know as far as this location goes, there's the lighthouse, which is kind of on a peninsula, and then you have that Clearwater Lagoon off to one side, and then a bridge leading to the mainland. Then we have the Caldera Terminal. As far as this goes, this is essentially the airport of this map. You can see the ATC tower there in the background, which I don't love. But as far as this goes, this is going to be an area where you're going to be able to find some planes, fly them around. Also, probably a pretty hot drop, as it's one of the bigger buildings that you'll see. Then they say that one of the largest points of interest on the map is the Agricultural Center. So this is located just south of the volcano. And as far as this goes, there's basically one main building followed up by several small buildings that you can go into as well. Off in the distance in the picture, you can see the main bridge. This is one thing we've seen many times throughout the different trailers and things that we've seen for the map, but a pretty interesting area and central located area as well. This is where we get into some of the more interesting locations as far as I'm concerned. First of all, we have Shark's Lair submarine pen. So this is a sub base that you can go into. As you can tell, quite a large building and area that you have here. This is one of the more interesting looking areas, at least in my opinion. This is followed up by the Caldera power plant. This one's really straightforward. It is just a power plant, several different buildings. You can see a gas station in there as well. And this is one of the first images that you can see where you can see off into the distance all of the palm trees, things like that. A very large juxtaposition to what we saw in Verdansk. So then we have Caldera Capital City. This is cool because most of the stuff that we've seen so far is kind of rural, spread amongst palm trees. You have some volcanic rock, but then you have the city, and this is kind of the main area, aka downtown, if you want to call it that. However, there's not a lot of huge, tall buildings like we saw in Verdansk. It's more of this small town vibe, but this is the town area, and I really like that. Then the final POI that we have is the Royal Cabana Resort. This is a resort, pretty straightforward, a hotel looking thing, and that is the final location that we have. So as far as a whole, the map is very, very different than what we see in Verdansk. Very different looking and a very different layout, and that is what I think Warzone has needed for a very long time, so it's good to see this. Now, let's talk about the gameplay itself. So first things first, when does this come out? It comes out on December 8th. If you've pre-ordered or ordered or played Call of Duty Vanguard, you will get it on that day. The day after, the 9th, is when it is released for everyone, and that is when the anti-cheat or Ricochet anti-cheat is implemented as well. Now, as far as when it's launched, it's going to launch with essentially two different game modes. First off, you're going to have Vanguard Royale. This is a mode where you can only use the Call of Duty Vanguard weapons, all of the operators from Call of Duty Vanguard, and then there's going to be on top of that customized calling cards, emblems, and more that are different specifically to Warzone Pacific and Vanguard Royale as well. So inside Vanguard Royale, there's new vehicles like the Jeep that you were seeing here. On top of that, there's also things like airplanes, which you can use for dogfights, shoot people with them. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays into the game. But on top of this, you can only use loadouts from Call of Duty Vanguard, which is interesting. So if you haven't leveled up weapons, you have 8 days to do so. So make sure you are doing it now. On top of this, the circle collapse, and then there's in-game events like specific items in Vanguard Royale and contracts as well. There's also something that they call bombing runs, which I'm not exactly sure how that works yet, but that'll be on this playlist as well. For you Rebirth players, Rebirth Island is still going to be there. That's essentially all you need to know about this. Then we have some smaller gameplay points, the first of which is the Gulag is changing a bit. First of all, we don't know what the Gulag map is actually going to be with the launch, but we do know that when you redeploy out of the Gulag, you get the weapons and lethals that you had inside of the Gulag. So after this, we have some changes to field upgrades and loadouts. First of all, Dead Silence is being nerfed and stopping power rounds are just gone. Hardcore gone, which is great to see. On top of this, there is some nerfs to specific things like stun grenades, heartbeat sensors, and then Kali sticks, and basically your Kimbo melee weapons. So those are going to be nerfed as well. After this, loadouts. You can only call in loadouts after that first loadout drops in and randomly throughout the game. That is interesting. So people aren't going to have their loadouts right away at the beginning of every single game. I actually do like that. Alongside that, they're buffing certain things like snapshot grenades to see a larger radius, and equipment's going to deal a little bit more damage. The other thing is decoy grenades are now actually going to slightly damage people, which is very, very interesting. Gas masks are also getting a couple of changes. First of all, the action of putting your gas mask on won't interrupt your abilities like it did before. It'll still interrupt some things. We don't know the exact details on that, but it should affect less than it did before. On top of this, it will stop you from taking damage from gas canisters as well, which I think makes a lot of sense. On top of this, we were talking about water before. The way they describe this is a little vague, but as far as it goes, it says there's shallow waters located around the map. So for example, in the lagoon, which you can go in. I don't know how that works. If you say lay down in the water, do you just die? I don't know. So there's not full on swimming, but you can be in water. I don't know how this is going to work. It's interesting. I guess we'll have to wait and see till it's actually out. And then finally, there are new contracts. One of them is called a supply drop contract, as well as a big game bounty. As far as these goes, we'll see what they're like once they're actually in game. They also announced that there is going to be public events in game as well. Things like restocks and resurgences will happen just like they did in Verdansk as well. So they also announced that there is going to be more Season 1 intel to come, but some things that we know that are coming in Season 1 are, first of all, Vanguard Plunder, Vanguard Resurgence, and other festive surprises. So that'll be around Christmas when we see those, would be my guess. So keep your eyes open for that, and as we get information on Season 1, I will keep you guys updated. But as for now, this is everything that we know about Warzone Pacific. We got the whole map. We got a bunch of details about the gameplay. I'm excited now. So next week, I can't believe it's that soon, is when we're going to be able to get our hands on this. So stay tuned. We're going to have lots coming on the channel. Make sure you subscribe, have notifications on. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. But thank you so much for watching. And until next time, peace out.
We are reaching for the stars, but we're making this to us.